All right, so now we're going to look at a video from my dear old friend, Kayvon, who happens to be the only master level Less Doing certified coach in the world and has been with me for a very, very long time in different capacities. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hi, Ari. How are you doing, brother? I hope you're having a good time. Sorry I couldn't come to the call today, and I have something that I wanted to get your feedback on. So AI, specifically ChatGPT, a lot of people are using it as in, I'm going to give it a prompt, it's going to give me the answer, and that's it. And I thought, the quality of the question determines the quality of the answer or the response. I wanted to know your thoughts on using ChatGPT as a brainstorming tool, as a full-time, thinking buddy that we can get higher quality when it comes, when it's time to create outcome. Before we get to the prompt of give me this, give me that, using it as a way to clarify our thinking, improve our ideas, and even, make everything higher quality. I tried to do this by creating a 70-something line prompt for creating a bunch of marketing assets that it asks me a bunch of questions on, 32, 35 elements of marketing assets. Who's the market? Who's the, what is the offer? What is the guarantee? All of the questions. So what are your thoughts on using AI and ChatGPT as a brainstorming tool or maybe any other way that you might think of? Thank you.
Okay, so it's a very good question, and I've done it. It's interesting because this is sort of a philosophical answer, but I'll get into the tactics of it. I think that it's interesting as a population, as a human population, that our feelings around artificial intelligence are that we want to make it as much like a human as possible. And why is that the case? Why do we feel that artificial intelligence should look like human intelligence? In the same way that every time, just about every sci-fi movie ever that has shown an alien of almost any form other than something like Jabba the Hutt maybe, they always tend to have humanoid forms. Why do we assume that aliens somewhere out in the universe look like us? Maybe a different color skin, or maybe another eye, or a horn, whatever it might be. But generally, they're humanoid. So the thing about artificial intelligence is, again, it's like, why do we assume that it should be as much like a human as possible? So in that vein, I think that using it as a thought partner, as a brainstorming partner, is a little bit like what I said before about not being able to read the label from inside the jar. I don't know that doing it, unless you do it really the right way, which we'll talk about, gives you value beyond what you might be able to just think of in your head, right? Because if the idea is it's a sounding board that is based on your prompts and what you've asked of it and what information you've given it, it's kind of like it's going to give you the same things, right? So it's almost like asking for confirmation bias. So where I found it's kind of interesting is, yes, you certainly can say, like, ask me these questions so that you have a baseline. However, the problem that I found with that is that the memory, the quote-unquote memory of ChatGPT seems to be extremely variable. I shared something on my Less Doing Lab broadcast recently where I was building out a SOP manual for the recruiting process at this rescue squad thing I keep talking about. I was building out the process, and it was like, all right, write section 1, and it was awesome. And it's like, all right, now let's write section 2, and it was awesome. And then I get to section 3, and I said, write section 3, and it's like, section 3 of what? Like, what do you mean? Like, the section 3 that you even proposed. Oh yeah, that, sorry. And then it wrote it. I mean, it's very weird. ChatGPT behaves in very weird ways sometimes. So again, yeah, it's great if it's like, ask me the 20 things that you need to ask me so that you fully understand my business and my market and whatnot. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to carry that through, and you won't necessarily know if it does or not. So what I think is an interesting way to do this, right, is play the the red shirt team idea or the red team idea, which is sort of it's an army concept in terms of ideas. But essentially with red teaming, what you're doing is you have a group of people, you have two groups of people, and you can do this in a business, of course. And the red team's sole job is to destroy you in some way or fashion, right? So in a business setting, it's like they come out with a competitive product that's cheaper. Okay, what do we do now? They hacked our computer systems and shut down our business, as crazy as you want to get it. So where I think it's more valuable to use ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner is to have it shoot holes in your ideas, which doesn't require it necessarily knowing much more about what you're doing, because if it says something that isn't congruent with something you're already doing, then you could say, oh, no, it's okay because we already do that. So then it'll be like, oh, well, in that case, what about this, right? So there's an exercise that we did at our previous Kaizen Summit that I've done many times I really like, which is called ritual dissent, which is where people pitch ideas and the people around them are only allowed to give them negative feedback, nothing positive, only negative. And they refine the idea from there. So if you take that approach with ChatGPT and basically just say like, hey, I have an idea for something. I want to sort of talk through it, but I really want you to just give me negative feedback. Just criticize it, just poke holes and tell me everything that's wrong with what I'm doing. I think you'll get a lot more interesting results. And quite honestly, you'll probably, that's a scenario where you might get something out of the AI that a human being would be too uncomfortable to give you otherwise. So that's my thoughts on using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner. Thanks, Kayvon.